What's up, everyone? So, as you can tell, I'm mid-project, and unfortunately, it's going to be about oil leaks. But that's not the unfortunate part. The unfortunate part is apparently I was recording the beginning of a disassembly. I went back to look at it. Somehow everything turned into super slow motion, but we got to the point where it's kind of important, so we're going to go ahead and go through this again. For you, that's the first time. For me, it's the second time. So let me go over what I've done. This is what's happening. These motors have a very common oil leak. That oil leak comes usually like a year or two after you use it for a while, and then you really start to notice it. And you don't necessarily see oil. What you see is this. It's almost always this side. See how it's like just nasty? It's a FJ180V, but that's not really the important part. The important part is where it's located. Now, I literally just took off the cover. I'm going to put it back together. I'll show you how to do it. So to remove it, I'll just give you a brief description while I'm putting it together. And it's going to be the opposite of how you put it back on. So we're doing everything reversed today. But this is the reason why. Now, I did not touch anything. I literally took it off, put it right here, got the camera. Boom. The gasket's crumpled. And right here, if you look at it, goes right there. And right there is where the oil leaks. You can kind of see where it starts off, and then the fan of the motor spinning kind of shoots the oil further out. I mean, it's an air-cooled engine, so that's the direction of airflow. So here's the thing. You can do a couple things to get this fixed. What I've learned is these gaskets are really nasty. I don't really like them. So what I'm going to do is, you see some of it's already there. I think that's fine. I'm going to get this cleaned up, and then I'm going to bring you back and show you what I consider to be the more permanent fix. So what I did is I got some black RTV, and you notice a lot of the gasket's still there. Now, what I'm about to tell you could be considered controversial, but let me tell you two things. One, I've replaced a gasket on these many a times. I have an actual gasket. However, I stopped using it because I don't know if it's how you have to put it on that's the problem or what. This always ends up happening. It's always right there. So, generally, if you take it off and you end up ripping it, what I do is I just put a little gasket or RTV. I get this cleaned up where I'm putting the RTV. I don't actually clean right there, to be honest, but that's just my preference. Probably should, but I just don't. But more importantly, I cover this area not so thick where it's going to be a problem. I'm going to smooth this out. Right now I'm just kind of waiting for it to kind of skin up, and then I'll smooth it out a little bit more and make it a little better. But anyway, basically what I'm waiting for is I'm waiting for it to kind of skin. But this, in my opinion, is going to be the best way to fix it, because the first one is I have gaskets and I've done it before. The second one is I've done this many of times, and want to know how many times it's failed? Never. I've been doing this for about 4 years now, and I've never had a return for this reason before when I do this. So take that as you will. If you like the idea, go ahead. If not, you could just replace a gasket, and potentially you're going to have the exact same problem later. Something you can do is you can get something called high tack. High tack is like a glue almost that you spray on the gasket material, and then you put it on, and it's supposed to kind of stick it together. I have done that in the past. It seemed to work out pretty well. However, it's also a real pain to take it off, so if you ever need to do anything else, you're pretty much guaranteed to give yourself a major headache to try to remove it from the surface. It's just a giant pain. I don't like doing it unless I need to. I do it on brigs because I rarely ever have to open brigs up, but these I open up all the time, mainly because they're easy. You don't even have to take it off the whatever mower you have. I mean, look, so it's still on there. It's a kind of a nice design in that way. I'm going to let it sit there for a couple more minutes. I'm going to put this bad boy back on, and then we will continue the video. It's the winter time, so it's been about half an hour. If it's in the summertime when you're doing this, or at least when it's warm, or if you're in a heated area, you only have to wait like 10 or 15 minutes. If I waited a little extra longer, so I could give it more time to kind of tack up. Now, there are pins in this. If you look at the top, it's not the thickest of aluminum, so you don't want to wail on it. So you want to push it down with your hands as far as you can until you know your pins are lined up. And at that point, take a rubber mallet, not a metal one. Maybe plastic would be fine. If you want to do plastic, you can. But something soft. And then you can kind of push it down and gently give it some good love taps. Here's a pretty decent place to kind of hit it. Corner is a pretty good place right there too. Stuff like that. You really don't want to crack this. You could potentially repair it, but it's easier not to have to repair something twice, you know? We now have to put the bolts back in. Now when you take it out, I don't know how many there are, but the two important ones are these two. There's 3 different sizes: short, medium, and long. One medium, one long, and a whole bunch of short ones. Short ones don't really matter too much. They can go in any location, wherever. However, the medium one goes over here. The long one goes right here. And that's important, like I said. If you put it in the wrong area, you can potentially break and strip stuff out. You don't want to do that. Now, I have put all the bolts in. I didn't show that because it's kind of boring, but basically you go on one edge and then the opposite, kind of do like a star pattern. It's a little odd star because there's more than 5 points, but once you're done, you then go around one more time to make sure that by tightening others things become looser, and then you tighten them up just to make sure. The exact torque specs, to be honest, I don't look it up. I just use my impact, but I do it very, very, very lightly, and it doesn't need to be tight, it just needs to be secure. So you don't need to wail on it, you just need to make sure it's on there. You could look it up if you want to, feel free, but it's probably somewhere in the line of, some 40, 50 inch-pounds or something like that. I don't know. It's not a lot. So, having said that, I elect to take off the coil. You don't have to take off the coil, but right now I need to put the flywheel back on. The flywheel is important to make sure you remember the little key that goes in there. I prefer to have the keyway face me so it's easier. Now, this can be a little annoying, especially if it's dirty like this one, but you try to make sure that it's in there nice and even. Hopefully you can tell, but it's not angled in a weird way or anything like that, because if it is, it's just not going to stay there. You're probably just going to push it out and you put the flywheel on. This is the point that it's going to be hard for me to film because I need 2 hands, but basically that key goes in that slot, and you'll know you're there when you move it and you're not putting any pressure on the flywheel and the crank spins. For safety purposes, if you do have your coil on, make sure it's disconnected. I have both my plug disconnected and the coils completely removed, so I don't have to worry about that. But if you didn't do that, be careful. You could potentially energize, and then not good things can happen. Flywheel's on. Now this is the fan I was telling you about that likes to spin air because it's a fan. See, the fan has these little knobs or pins or whatever you want to call. They fit in those little holes on the flywheel. It should be flush. There we go. Or level, however you want to call it. And then at that point, we do need to put that back on. However, we are missing this piece, and to be completely honest, I don't remember exactly. I feel like I need to put the cover on first. In fact, I'm almost guaranteeing I need to put the cover on first. So I'm going to put the coil on, and then we'll continue on. And there we go. So I put this bolt back in, and this I didn't actually need to have on there at the current time, but cranked it down, took the bolt back out, so the flywheel is actually in its position right now, and right now it should be, I put a 10,000ths of an inch gap there. So now what I need to do is I need to put the cover on, and then after the cover we can then put the shield on and then we can then put the recoil on. So I'm going to put the cover on, and then we will continue. And we have the cover on. The cover consists of a 10 millimeter there, 10 millimeter there, and then one more on the other side. Pretty simple. Now, at this point in time, we have to put on the rest of our pieces. That simply goes like so. This goes on top of it. And this is our bolt that holds everything down and together. I don't remember what size that is. Let's take a look. 17 millimeters what I have. Maybe it's the equivalent, but this works. Now, this is the part that some of you might not like, so cover your ears and hold your common fingers. There we go. It's on there securely, and everything spins. I think the clamp is on there, so it's moving the blades too, so it's a little hard to spin, but it's on there. So now all we need to do, put the recoil back on, and we're set. We should be good to go. I'm going to let this cure for overnight, especially because it's cold outside. If it's warm, you could probably get away with like 10-12 hours. Shouldn't be a problem. Because it's cold, I'm going to do a little extra time. It's going to be a lot safer that way. Like I said, if you don't like this idea, then that's fine. Go get a gasket. Just know that in my experience, the gaskets usually end up failing anyway, but the silicone method doesn't. Problem with the silicone method is if you put the wrong type, it's a bad thing. Get black, Permatex, or Honda Bond, or whatever. Make sure it's oil resistant. Next, you have to make sure you don't put a whole lot on, because you don't want to clog a passageway. You want to make sure you put enough on to be secure and not having an issue, but you don't want to put so much in there where it's gooping out. So don't goop. Just put enough where you need it, and that's it. Can you just put silicone everywhere? Yes. You could take the gasket off, clean it. I use brake clean. It's right there to clean it, and it does a good job. Removes the oils. That's important. You want to remove the oil. You can't put silicone over oily surface, otherwise it won't work. So at that point in time, we are good to go. This is a Kawasaki FJ180V with a probably the most common oil leak I've ever seen in a small engine, and this is the best way, in my opinion, how to fix it. If you don't agree, leave a comment below. If you do agree and this helped you out, leave a thumbs up. That helps me out, and I'll see you on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me on Instagram at SmallEngine101. You have a good rest of your evening.